Dolly was different. Born with a rare genetic disorder, time seemed to forget her. At the age of 5, she stopped aging. Her mind matured, but her body remained frozen in childhood. It was a peculiar phenomenon, a cruel twist of fate that left her trapped in a child's form with an adult's intellect and desires. Dolly's parents were devastated. They consulted countless specialists, but no one had ever encountered such a condition. There was no cure. Dolly, forever 5, became a medical marvel. Her existence chronicled in medical journals and whispered in hushed tones at conferences. Despite the initial shock and despair, Dolly's parents decided to make the most of their daughter's unusual situation. They nurtured her intelligence, enrolling her in advanced learning programs and fostering her love for books and the arts. Little did they know, their efforts would pave the way for both a meteoric rise to fame and a devastating fall from grace. Dolly's unique appearance, coupled with her precociousness, caught the eye of a talent scout at a local charity event. Soon, she was gracing television screens across the nation. Her big, innocent eyes and infectious laughter charmed audiences in commercials for children's sunscreen and educational toys. Her fame skyrocketed when she landed the lead role in a popular children's television series. Dolly's World, a show about a cheerful, imaginative little girl and her adventures, became a global phenomenon. Dolly was adored. Children wanted to be her friend, and parents praised her talent and maturity. Awards and accolades piled up, along with lucrative endorsement deals. Dolly was on top of the world, a child star with the world at her feet. But time, even when it stood still for Dolly, marched on for everyone else. As the years passed, audiences grew tired of the unchanging face of Dolly's World. The cuteness that once captivated viewers began to grate. The show's ratings dwindled, and the once adoring public moved on to new, fresh faces. Dolly's reign as America's sweetheart was over. The transition was harsh. Dolly, despite her youthful appearance, yearned for adult experiences, for love, for understanding. She tried to shed her child star image, auditioning for more mature roles that showcased her acting range. But directors couldn't see past her childlike facade. Co-stars, twice her age, treated her like a mascot, not an equal. Romantic relationships proved impossible. Men were either intimidated by her condition or saw her as nothing more than a perpetual child. Dolly, forever 5, was trapped in a purgatory of her own making, desired by none, understood by few. Loneliness became her constant companion. The fortune she had amassed during her childhood stardom felt like a hollow victory. She surrounded herself with material possessions, hoping to fill the void within. But the mansions, the cars, the designer clothes brought her no solace. She was alone, a prisoner in her own ageless body. It was during this dark period that bitterness began to fester in Dolly's heart. She had known both adoration and rejection, and she came to resent the world that had cast her aside. The men who had ignored her, the directors who had dismissed her talent, the co-stars who had treated her with condescension, they became the targets of her simmering rage. Dolly poured her wealth and intellect into a secret project, a device that could manipulate the very essence of aging. She hired a brilliant but morally ambiguous scientist, Dr. Evelyn Wright, who shared her disdain for the superficiality of the entertainment industry. Together, they toiled away in a hidden laboratory, driven by Dolly's desire for revenge. After years of research and countless failed experiments, they finally achieved the impossible. The de-aging gun, as they called it, was a marvel of twisted ingenuity. With a pull of the trigger, it could reverse a person's age, transforming them into a younger version of themselves. Dolly saw it not as a weapon, but as a tool of retribution. She would make them experience the same helplessness, the same lack of control that she had endured for so long. The child star had become a woman scorned, and she was ready for payback.
Dolly wasn't like other 5-year-olds. Behind her big blue eyes and innocent smile lurked the mind of a scorned woman. She remembered every slight, every rejection, the sting of being replaced by a younger, cuter face in a diaper commercial, the director who yelled at her for forgetting a line, the men at the ice cream shop who chuckled and said she was too young for a date. Dolly wanted revenge. She craved it, and soon she would have her chance. The first target was obvious: Missy, the giggling blonde who stole Dolly's diaper commercial. Missy was now a successful teen actress, but not for long. Dolly snuck onto the set of Missy's latest film. She waited until Missy was in the middle of a dramatic scene. Then, Dolly pulled the trigger. The gun hummed. A beam of blue light shot out, engulfing Missy. Missy screamed, but her scream quickly turned into a confused gurgle. The transformation was instant. Missy, the teenage star, was gone. In her place sat a confused, crying toddler. The crew panicked. Dolly, hidden amongst them, giggled. This was just the beginning. Next on Dolly's list was the director who dared to scold her. He was a grumpy old man with a booming voice. Now he was reduced to a babbling, crawling baby. Dolly found a pacifier and shoved it in his mouth. The satisfaction was intoxicating. She was untouchable, a tiny agent of chaos. Her reign of de-aging continued. Men who brushed off her advances for being too young now wailed in their cribs, helpless newborns. Dolly relished their tears, their inability to comprehend what had happened. With each pull of the trigger, her rage subsided, replaced by a chilling sense of power. Hollywood was in chaos. A-list actors were suddenly back in diapers. Renowned directors were gumming their toys. The news called it a bizarre virus, but Dolly knew the truth. She was the architect of this age-bending epidemic, and she was just getting started. Word of the Hollywood baby crisis reached the ears of a shadowy figure. He was a silent guardian, a watchful protector. They called him the Dark Knight, a vigilante who fought for justice in the darkest corners of the city. He knew this was no ordinary crisis. Someone or something was manipulating time itself, and he vowed to stop it.
I have to find the source of this chaos.
The trail led him to a soundstage where a group of former child stars were having a tea party. Except, it wasn't tea in their cups, but warm milk. And their conversation consisted of babbles and coos. In the center of it all sat Dolly. She was laughing, a glint of madness in her eyes. The Dark Knight knew he had found his target.
It's over, Dolly.
The Dark Knight's voice boomed through the soundstage. Dolly spun around, her eyes wide with surprise.
You can't stop me. It's time everyone learned what it's like to be powerless, to be young and forgotten.
A blue beam shot from the gun, but the Dark Knight was too fast. He moved like a phantom, dodging the blast with ease. Dolly's aim was getting sloppier, her anger clouding her judgment. The chase was on. Dolly, still clutching the gun, weaved through the chaotic soundstage. She used her size to her advantage, hiding behind props, squeezing through spaces the Dark Knight couldn't reach. But the Dark Knight was patient. He was a master strategist, and he knew how to use Dolly's fear against her. He lured her into a corner, a mountain of teddy bears blocking her only escape.
There's nowhere left to run, Dolly.
Dolly's face crumpled. Tears welled up in her eyes, but even as she cried, her grip on the gun tightened. In a swift movement, the Dark Knight disarmed her. The gun clattered to the floor. Dolly collapsed, all her fight draining away. She was just a scared little girl, lost in a world she no longer understood. The Dark Knight scooped her up gently.
It's okay, it's over now.
Sirens wailed in the distance. The police were on their way. The Dark Knight knew he couldn't stay. He had to right the wrongs that had been done. He picked up the de-aging gun. It pulsed faintly in his hand. He understood its power, but more importantly, he understood its responsibility. With a flick of his wrist, he reversed the gun's settings. A wave of energy pulsed through the soundstage, bathing everything in a warm, golden light. The air crackled with energy, and then, silence. The babies were gone. The toddlers were gone. In their place stood the actors, the directors, the men Dolly had targeted. They were all back to their normal ages, confused but unharmed.
We'll take it from here.
The Dark Knight slipped away as the police arrived. He disappeared into the night, leaving behind a Hollywood restored. The city would remember this night. The nighttime stood still, and then rewound. And somewhere, in the back of their minds, they would remember their savior, the silent guardian who protected them from the shadows, the Dark Knight.